America's Positive Pragmatic Goshen.
Well, welcome back to our podcast, The Positive Pragmatic. Now, for some of you guys just now plugging in, you're trying to figure out what in the world is a positive pragmatic. Well, that's me. Positive because I'm a positive person. I'm going to say 98.99% of the time, I'm pretty positive. Every once in a while, I might backslide, but hey, I recover quickly. I'm sure we all have that challenge. Also, I ran with a gentleman named Zig Ziglar for a few years and used to go down and do his training on Monday mornings with some of his staff. And you can't be around Zig Ziglar and not be positive. It's impossible. Pragmatic? A pragmatic is a person that looks at practical ways to handle solutions, not theoretical. Today we have so many people, I believe, out there that have these theoretical answers for business or for organizations or for individuals, but they don't have any practical solutions. And that's called reasoning skills. So that's why I'm pragmatic. I'm a positive pragmatic. Now, as I said at the very beginning, my first podcast was, I'm creating this for everyone out there. I have had a wonderful, wonderful life. I'm just overwhelmed, blessed, had great favor on my life and my wife. There's not much that we haven't done. There's not any summits that we probably haven't climbed. It's been good. It's been a good life. Have we had challenges? Does a chicken have lips? Did we have challenges? Listen, when I reflect back, we've had a good life. So the reason for this podcast is I want to give you what I've learned over the past many, many, many years being out in the world and learning business, owning several corporations and organizations, traveling around the world, over 4 million air miles, going out and sharing leadership principles and culture development for organizations, training corporations, speaking for the U.S. Army at Fort Hood, several thousand troops, talking to them about how they can become better. I want to share some of these events with you. So I break down each session on, I believe, something that you can use. I talk fast sometimes. Matter of fact, all the time. Somebody recorded me. One time I was at an event and a speech therapist was in the front row. I didn't know who she was. She came up afterwards. She said, "Mr. Goshen, do you realize that you speak at 276 words per minute?" I went, "Yes, I do, ma'am. Sometimes I have gusts up to 300. I mean, I get excited. Now, I'm a type A. I don't know if any of you guys out there are type A. We don't like people driving slow in a fast lane. Can I get an on that? I'm the one that goes to the elevator and I keep pushing the button knowing that the elevator is coming down sooner. You don't want me at Costco's. Costco's, when I'm getting ready to check out, I'm getting ready to go to a drag race. I'm looking back and forth trying to find that one cashier that's got it together. I'm sure some of you are like that. I'm also a little ADD and I drink high impact coffee. So I talk fast for that reason. Number two, when I'm teaching, when I'm speaking, I normally don't like to go over 20 minutes. I think anything beyond 20 minutes, you really don't have a whole lot to say, to be quite honest. So I like to get going with my presentations and talk. So today, I'm going to be doing something that I'm going to give you a little history. During the history, I'm also going to be sharing precepts that you can utilize today. Who's this message for? This training today, listen, if you own a company, if you're a CEO, if you're a head of an organization, a leader of an organization, if you're a pastor, you're a head of your family, anyone that's in a leadership position over and trying to build a positive culture, you're the one that I'm talking to today. Because if you do not have a good culture in your organization, then the chances of your survival will not be good. And if they are good, they won't last very long if you don't keep that culture alive. Now, here's the challenge with a culture. I read an article, I think it was Harvard Business Review, having to reflect back there. And they wrote an article about culture, and they said this, and I'm going to paraphrase. They said something like, you won't find anybody, if you debate anybody about a culture, nobody will really argue with you. Every organization, every corporation realizes you have to have a good culture. That's number one. But number two, they said, majority of organizations, majority of leaders and CEOs don't know how to get their arms around this thing called culture. Now, they might turn around and have ideas of, let's get a contemporary open space like this place that we're in right now. Let's get high-impact furniture, very contemporary furniture. I know, let's take our employees or our organization out to Top Golf or some fun place. I'm not saying any of those things are bad. As a matter of fact, I think you have to incorporate most of those. But that's not your culture. That's not your culture. Your culture is the spirit. Write it down. I'm going to tell you often to write things down. The spirit of your people. Keeping that spirit alive in your people. Keeping that group of people that are under your care, and that's what they are, where they're excited about coming to work or starting their own business or creating their new enterprise, whatever it may be. You've got to keep that spirit alive. I think of a culture like a greenhouse, okay? I explained that to a company the other day. A greenhouse has to have light, consistent light, temperature, and water. If you do not keep those three items together, and you're not continually watering and checking the temperature, making sure that temperature is consistent, and making sure you're watering the plants or whatever you're growing, they're not going to survive. And so it is with an organization. If you're not teaching and working and keeping the spirit alive, you're going to lose them. Your light is your vision. The light that you would use in a greenhouse would be considered your vision for you. The temperature, your consistent temperature, is your consistent attitude. Is your attitude positive? Do you look at helping people, lifting people up, helping people become better? Are you a boss or are you a leader? And watering is inspiration, keeping inspiration in your organization. Inspiration is to help people be mentally stimulated to do a good job. Very, very important. So as we go today, we're going to talk about what are some of the precepts needed in my organization, in my corporation, in my church, in my family. What's needed in order to keep a vibrant organization growing? And I'm going to share those with you from actual practical application that I have created in other businesses and organizations around the world. I shared an audience with them not too long ago that I have flown over 4 million air miles. I mean, that is a lot of air miles, folks. Somebody asked me, they said, Bob, because 3 million of them was with just American Airlines, and they said, Bob, what did American give you when you flew 3 million air miles? I said, they gave me a keychain and hemorrhoids. I mean, if you're on a little silver tube flying that many miles, sometimes I'm wondering just how bright I was. But as I went around, not the country, the world, and started implementing these teachings that I'm going to be sharing with you, I saw major results. Number one is, what are your values? Now listen to me. Right now, get a piece of paper, write it down. What are your values? Now don't give me some mission statement you have on your wall. Well, we're going to have great service. Well, that's not what I'm talking about. Values is what your personal character is. See, it starts with you. I'm assuming that I'm talking to the leader of a home, the leader of a house, a leader, an owner, whatever. It starts with you. See, nothing happens unless that leader implements what we're sharing today. So what are your values? Many, many years ago, well, I don't want to say many years ago, it was in 2012, I was contacted by a gentleman, and he asked me to fly out to Utah and talk to him about a venture and wanted to know if I wanted to come on board with him with the venture. Now, the venture was simply this. It was putting together an upside-down company. The company was, let's just say, stagnated. They hadn't grown in a while. They had 250, 300 employees, maybe doing 250 million, I don't know, a year, whatever. But nothing was really dynamic. It wasn't really going forward. And some of you guys may be in that right now. It's kind of called a plateau, where you're plateaued. So I flew out and I talked to him and I shared with him. And he said, Bob, I want you to come on board with us and help us create this new culture and create this new platform for, we believe, an amazing business in the future. Well, folks, I'm pitched so many things so many times that I'm just going, yeah, sure. But I listen. because the way he was talking and what he was sharing got my attention. And so I joined him and one other gentleman, and we became the three musketeers that were going to create the internal makings of this company. First thing we did was to get a PR company and sit down and determine what. We wanted to know, what values do we want to carry forward in this company? Now, I'm a firm believer that those values have to be your values, my friend. Whoever you are right now that's the leader of your organization, corporation, they must be your values. And so instead of us sitting down and say, hey, we're cool, we're this, we're going to be this, we said, no, we're going to a PR company. A PR company sat down with us for 3 days. And what they were trying to do was trying to figure out the three of us, the three individuals that were creating sort of the internal makings of this company at the time. And they interviewed us individually. They interviewed us together. They asked a lot of questions, and then they left, and they came back. Now, here's how powerful this hit me when they came back. They came back and they said, here's your values. And your values are very unusual because we create value information for hundreds of companies. But we've never had one that just screams these two words: you care. You care. I just sat there and thinking, that's true. And it has to be true for you. You have to care for your employees, for your franchise owners, for your distributors, through your marketers, through your staff, your customers. You have to really care. You have to really want to help people. And all three of us that came together had that mindset. And he said, as a result of that, here are your values that we see for you guys, for the three of you. You're authentic, you're compassionate, you're humble, you're vibrant, and you're disruptive. And we just kind of looked at each other, and I thought, I looked at the other two and said, that's them. And they looked at me and said, yeah, that's you. Now, we took those values, just like I'm asking you, you determine your values, and you make them a blanket over your company. It's so vitally important because you're getting ready to build something big if you will do this. I recently got an article and read it, and it was from Henry Ford, made a statement. And he said, coming together is the beginning. Keeping together is the process. But working together is success. See, it's not just coming together. Anybody can come together. You can kind of keep it together for a while. But learning how to work together, and what I teach and have shared for years is we're going to get everybody and put them in the same sandbox, and we're all going to get along. We're all going to have one voice. We're all going to respect one another. That has to be a skill that's taught to your people. When I was talking about a culture as far as an environment within a greenhouse, here are the three areas that I want you to really lock into, that you really need to have, or I'm going to say that I have always instilled to make an organization or a corporation to grow. Number one, you have to have a vision. You have to have a vision. Well, Bob, I have a vision. Have your people heard your vision? Have you shared your vision? Do you keep your vision in front of your organization? If you're a pastor, if you're a CEO, if you're an owner, if you're a key leader, are you keeping the vision in front of your people? When we established this company, our vision was simply now you ready? To create 10 million homes, 10 million customers. A lot of people would look at us and they'd say, you're crazy. That's why we knew we had a good vision. See, I'm a firm believer, if your vision doesn't scare you, you probably don't have a big enough vision. And the company we were going into didn't have anything going. The people at that point, the employees, they were, I'm not going to say dead, but they were dying. The majority of them were there primarily just to get a check. The atmosphere of the company, I think it was the third floor, the first day I walked in there to just kind of walk around, they had the lights turned off. Some of the lights turned off in the business, in the building, because of trying to save electric bill. They had a 500,000 square foot facility on that campus, and it had a chain link fence on the inside, and they were renting it out to RVs and boats, which ultimately became our manufacturing facility. I mean, I'm talking about a dead place. So we had to stand in front of them. And my job, they called me in to primarily turn this culture around, bring these people together. So one, you got to have a vision. Two, you got to have values. List your values, know your values, share your values, keep your values in front of your organization. I used to have name tags that everybody that came into our company, because it was a secure building. And on the back of their name tag, I put our values on the back. And I'd walk through the hallway, and anytime I'd see somebody, I would say, hey, what's our values? If they shared them, bam, 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 all five of them, I bought their lunch, or I bought their dinner, or I did something nice about that, because I was teaching every week, 2 days a week, to these 250 employees that you are respected here and we are going to do something majorly big. And then the last is voice. So you got to have vision, values, and voice. What's voice? Getting everyone on the same page, getting everyone believing the same thing, getting rid of, are you ready for this? Getting rid of all your toxic people. It takes a while to get rid of toxic people, but you do have to get rid of them. Those that are the naysayers that, oh, it'll never happen. Oh, here's just another group coming in. Make sure you are continually listening and weeding out those toxic people. When I would talk and I would teach and I would share with these employees, and remember now, the first day was, oh boy, I don't know. Here they are again, another group. Here's what I told them. You're not here by accident. You're not here by accident. There's a reason that you're here. Guys, if no matter where you are right now, you are where you are, and it's not an accident. It's not something just, let's just happen. You were put where you are today for a purpose, all right? Number two, I shared, guys, we all have troubles. We're going to have troubles in this company. Man, we're going to try to figure out, we got to figure out, do we want to keep the same name? Do we want a new name? Do we want to know what products we're going to market, what products we're not going to market? How are we going to design the products? On and on and on and on. So we'd go down these alley after alley after alley trying to listen, catch a gear. Just catch a gear. We knew if we could catch a gear, it would propel us into the next area and arena. And we had troubles. A lot of times we go down an alley and they blow up. You're going to have them. You're going to have troubles with your life. Now, troubles, as I shared with them, are going to do one or two things. They're either going to transform you, okay, or they're going to trap you. They're going to trap you. And if you let them trap you, you'll never have any growth. You'll lose your vision. You'll lose your motivation. You'll lose your inspiration. So you have to stay focused on what we're talking about here today. I told a story not too long ago about, it's called the Intertropical Convergence Zone. Now, I gave you a little history here. What that is, if you go down by the equator, you've got several miles to the north and several miles to the south. The winds start to come in and they converge on this zone. When these winds from the north and the south come together, they create an area that's dead. There's no air. There's no wind. And what would happen, these massive sailing ships in the early days would go into these areas, and they go into these areas, and they could not get out of this convergence zone. Many people, many ships were lost, and men were killed in this zone. Not only was it a bad zone, but it was the worst rain that you could ever have in your life was in that area. Hail, rain, storms, big, anything you can imagine. And what it did, it would create a state of just inactivity and a state of stagnation. I think sometimes many of you may be watching right now, may be in that zone yourself. You have to look around. You got to be honest. You got to accept the reality of where you are with your organization, your family, corporation, whatever it may be. Are you in a state of inactivity or stagnation? Are you seeing that you're listless and have low spirits? That's what I was up against. Well, how do you correct that? Well, you, as the head of the organization or corporation or whatever it may be, major leader, guess what you are? You have to breathe fresh air into all your people to get that spirit alive. You have to become a fresh air facilitator. The statement from our CEO, which was one of the three that when we came together for this particular company, said the contagion of the name of the company, is based upon our attitude of service to those who are joining us. As long as you will keep that contagion in your organization where it's based upon your attitude, remember, feed that attitude, and those who are joining you, serving them, you will have a wonderful culture. I think sometimes people forget that no company is promised a perpetual success. No company. If you're not applying some of the things that I'm sharing here today, I will assure you 5 years from today, you won't be where you are. And when you look back, you'll see that you surrendered your values and you surrendered your servant attitude or your servant spirit. Keep the values in place. Keep that servant spirit in place if you want a strong culture. A culture is a chemistry. In an organization, it's a chemistry. Let's take a business. You got the staff. You got to keep them alive, man. You got to keep them alive. You got to continue to feed them, reward them, raise them up, admire them, respect them. You've got your customer. You've got to serve them. You got to serve that customer. I created the first call center in this company. I had a big red wall. It was a white wall. I painted it red, and on that wall I put on there in white letters, "Heart of the House." Heart of the House. I wanted those people in that call center to be excited about who they were and what they were doing, and they were front line. You got to continue to feed your call center or your employees. And last, you've got to be as I told that particular company at the time, I wanted them to be like a black card American Express center. So when people called in, they were excited about hearing from you in the call center. Respect in chemistry, 3 areas. Number 1, I think it was Vince Lombardi that said winning is because the players love one another. Listen, rarely will you find an organization or corporation where the chemistry is right. The chemistry. Yeah, you know what I'm sharing with. I mean, where you have people that come together and they energize one another. Man, anytime they come together, it's like computers plugged in, right? Very seldom will that happen. And you'll find that group of men and women and business or whatever, when that happens, they love one another. I mean, a kind of love that they have respect for one another. They respect each other. They trust one another. They're selfless. And positive energy as a result just flows through that company because they don't focus on them. They focus on how can I help people become better? How can I help this company grow or this organization? Mark Meisner was an NFL All-Star Hall of Famer many years ago. Here was his quote. I thought it was interesting. If everybody can find a way to put their personal agendas aside for the benefit of the team, they gain in the long run. However, what I have seen is that often most people think they have to take care of themselves first and the team second. You need to consider having a servant heart and serving your employees, serving your distributors, serving your congregation, whatever it is, and have that kind of heart if you're going to continue to have a strong culture. Our company that we created, a whole team of us that we initially came in, eventually sponsored an F1, what do you call it? F1 drivers, F1 team. You know, you're talking about those little cars that go 400 mile an hour, around a track. They cost those. We sponsored. I think I've got to read here. It was the Alfa Romero team. We sponsored that team. Now, guys, those cars run about $16 million, and a sponsorship, like to put your name on it, will be anywhere from $1 million up to $50 million. Now, I say that to say, by golly, I guess we kind of helped put this thing together a little bit. That's not my point. What I started reading was the clique, how tight the drivers are, how tight the team is. That team has to be so tight. We see them going around the track, but man, the money is in the guys on the side that are sitting there changing tires, putting in the gas, doing all those things. If you notice, they come into that pit, baby, and bam, it's over in a matter of seconds. Well, here are the characteristics that I started reading of those teams in F1 Formula. Remember the name, F1 Formula Racing. Listen, they have a clear vision. They work together to build trust. Man, you got to trust one another if you're working on those cars. You got to be willing and open to learning and collaboration. So many times in organizations, corporations, whatever, people don't want to collaborate. They want to get in there and I am the answer. I have all the answer. And last, they create a working, listen, no blame culture. Guys, if you're wanting to grow, if you're wanting, today the word is scale, if you're wanting to create a business that's out of sight, you need to focus on that culture. I'm sorry to say today that the majority of the people, let's just say I can work wherever I want to work, because most organizations and corporations have people coming to work that don't want to be there. 58% of the people that's employed today are just there for a check. But if you learn how to excite them and reward them and help them and build them up and monitor them, do everything that you can, they are the answer. Bill Marriott was a friend. We were on a committee together. He sent me a little autographed book here called Spirit to Serve. And his whole concept behind the Marriott hotels was simply this: we have to have long-term values and a purpose. I know this helps some of you today. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the next time we get together. I want you to like it. I want you to share it. I want to hear your input. I'd like either an email or a DM or whatever. But until we get together on the next training and hopefully wonderful time, I want to say goodbye, and remember, people will remember your touch longer than they'll ever remember your talk. Have a great day.